The cover page of One Piece chapter 1137, titled Shamrock Appears, features Yamato and Tama peering into Who's Who's hideout to see 3 cat-eared goons posted up. This Yamato pilgrimage thing has been going on for 23 installments now. I took a look back at some of the older ones, and yeah, so far this is easily the most boring cover story yet. Miss Golden Week's escapades were way better than this, so here's hoping it gets interesting soon. To kick off the chapter, we're told that King Harold died 14 years ago in his castle, and not a soul has dared to approach it since. Or at least that's how it was. But even Road could tell that the gate had been opened by force, along with a distinct lack of any guards. Nami seems to be a bit worried, as she wondered if there was some sort of trouble. But Zoro argued that the culprits could hardly be called invaders since the gate was broken from the inside. Luffy rationalized that they won't get any answers by hanging around outside, so he raced through the breach. He's here for the key to unshackle Loki after all. Zoro noticed that the points of destruction appeared to be recent. Road was hesitant to follow them since the place gives him the creeps. Meanwhile, Luffy was busy admiring how high up the ceiling goes. The scale of this castle is just way too much for them to traverse on their own. Luffy happily turned to Road and asked him where the key is, but the creepy giant has no idea. He's just a regular citizen of Elbaf, who never had the privilege of entering the castle. However, Nami feigned admiration to get him to man up and play his role. In this moment, Zoro was grateful for her new pet too. Exploring the castle gave Road mixed feelings. He was asked if the destroyed bits are on account of the invaders too, but as far as he knows, this is all from King Harold's fight against Loki. While he carried the two, Luffy kept racing ahead like a hyperactive child. Zoro marveled at the destructive power that must have been responsible for the damage. While Loki is known to be a monster, their late king was also known to be a great warrior, so destruction was a given. Luffy and Nami both had strong reactions to what came next. There were a bunch of skeletons littered all over the ground, which to me is just a lost opportunity for a Brook joke. These are the remains of the many soldiers that were inside the castle that day. Over 100 were said to have been killed by Loki, and the only survivors from the rampage were Loki and Elder Ja Rule. After that, the castle was sealed off and going in became forbidden, which is to say, there were absolutely no witnesses to Loki's crime. Even if Elder Ja Rule was there, he is really old and took a sword to the head. I'm not so sure he can be considered a reliable witness. Luffy stood on top of one of the massive skulls like it was Onigashima. He especially pointed out its huge horns and wondered if the guy might have been buddies with Oars. Road explained that such warriors had the blood of the ancient giants. Such beings with pure blood are a thing of the past, but their ancestry lives on. Obviously, he must not know about Little Oars Jr., despite the guy formerly being with the Whitebeard Pirates. Even still, their ancestry lives on. Even King Harold was one of them. Looking up, a portrait depicted the late king just as Road remembers him. King Harold was a peace-loving sovereign who sought to connect Elbaf to the larger world. For that, he's revered as the best king in the nation's history. And if I had to guess, I'd say that trying to connect to the larger world screwed him over and cost him his life, just like Shirahoshi's mom. To Luffy, the guy looks like he was pretty strong. The Scowling King had scars on his head after tearing off his own horns. He did so due to the stigma of the ancient giants and their participation in the era of wars. Zoro deeply regarded the king's determination, but honestly, if I were a giant of ancient descendancy, I'm not so sure I'd follow a guy like that. It makes sense why so many of the elders oppose his intentions for the country. It's only made sillier by the fact that so many giants seem to revere their ancestry through their helmets which bear horns. And based on Prince Loki's and his general intentions, it's clear that he and his father did not see eye to eye on that front. Either way, the king's death broke the whole country. But the one who hates Loki the most for what he did and still desires revenge is the king's other son, Harudin. Luffy didn't expect that bit, while Nami realized that the two must be brothers. Road explained that they're actually half-brothers. He was born to another woman before King Harold married the queen. Harudin's mother wasn't given permission to become Elbaf's queen since she was born in another giant kingdom. Zoro didn't see what the big deal was since she's a giant too. To that, Road pointed out that humans fight each other over land too. Then Zoro saw his point. Road is also of the opinion that the blood of foreign giants would taint the pure blood of Elbaf. Nami wasn't a fan of the giant's discriminatory mindset. He even looks down on humans beyond in the literal sense. He chimed in that Nami is different, but that hardly pleased her. Zoro questioned why Road is a part of Harudine's crew if he feels that way about his heritage. Road recalled being bullied during his childhood for being a nerd, but Harudine actually admired his ability to draw maps and wanted to learn from the kid. He insisted that the two become friends. In the present, a bashful Road admitted that unlike him, Harudine is a truly honest man. Despite being the king's son, he wasn't allowed to live in the castle. Although his mother was discriminated against for being a foreigner, he withstood it all and swore to unite all the giants of the world. Even now, that's the sort of thing he's saying while knocking back enough ale to drown a whale. And these days, there are even those who believe in him. Road intends to make his friend's dream a reality. With that, Zoro couldn't help but recognize the commonality between the two of them and huffed, while it gave Nami a good laugh. When we met Harudine on Dressrosa, he mentioned his desire to become the king of Elbaf. Despite his father's death, the queen's death, and Loki's detainment, he still hasn't been allowed to ascend the throne. So I wonder what it would take for something like that to actually happen. While running ahead, Luffy spotted some living giants. They're likely to be the guards that Gunko took down. Down in the underworld, Loki was being put through the ringer. Bloodied, the prince made it clear that the only reason they're able to do this to him is because he can't move. But the Shanks look-alike expressed that there wouldn't be a difference even if he could. Gunko looked down on the insolent commoner. Now at the height of a giant herself, she clarified that he's being offered a chance to become a god. Something so utterly unattainable that scores have died for even a glimmer of such a chance. She stomped down and an arrow emerged from the ground. This wasn't Loki's first time being harmed by the thing. It preemptively established its movement pattern. Loki surmised that Gunko would be going for a full-speed kick to the right side of his face, one that will turn him sideways. The knight simply made adjustments to her gloves, because from there, she is going to hit him with an uppercut. He thanked her for the warning. She explained that the arrows show the direction of her future. The outcome is unavoidable, and only she can stop it before it happens. All he has to do is agree to join God's Knights. Gunko was ready to walk the path towards thrashing him, but yet again, Loki totally refused. With that, Gunko didn't hesitate. She did exactly as expected and brutalized Loki. The prince could only lower his head when the sequence ended. His beastly friends were enraged, but they've all been punctured by arrows. And with the arrows being like stakes, this seems to play into Norse Fenrir lore like plenty of other things connected to Loki. He told Gunko that she'll pay for what she's done. Another arrow urged him to look up. When he did, he saw several more aimed at his face. He told her to give it a rest already. To that, she asked if he's ready to join them. He responded by sticking out his tongue, which earned him another severe beating. Meanwhile, her comrade was busy exuding his aura. At this point, Gunko was getting tired, so he told her that it's alright. Removing his hood, he decided that it's time for them to shift gears and contact the Holy Land. Gunko looked at him, and now the look-alike has been fully revealed. This is the new captain of God's Knights, Figarland Shamrock, the son of Figarland Garling of the Five Elders. He conceded the fact that not every piece proves to be useful. His plan was to handle this in a delicate manner, but it doesn't seem like that will be the case. Gunko noted the fool's unwillingness to bend even in the face of death. She wondered if it's a matter of faith. We're also informed that her powers are from the Arrow fruit. Shamrock mentioned how the warriors of Elbaf previously dominated the New World. As such, the world government will make them submit no matter what. Shanks really picked a hell of a time to leave the island, huh? But with that, he's been cleared of all snitch charges, and the rat agenda comes to an end. It was fun while it lasted. Shamrock is an interesting name choice. Don't love it, don't hate it. But the fact that we have Shanks, racist Shanks, and vintage racist Shanks is pretty crazy. To be fair, Oda's original concept for Shanks had him as a knight, so it seems like this was a long time coming. However, although Shamrock has been claimed as Garling's son, he is yet to be designated as Shanks' brother. For now, the two seem to be estranged identical twins. But knowing that in some cases outsiders can be accepted as celestial dragons, like they're trying to do with Loki right now, could mean the same thing happened for Garling. We know that Shanks is Garling's son too, and he was found in a treasure chest and adopted by the Roger Pirates. And since cloning is a thing, and has been for a while now, perhaps Garling gave up on his original kid and accepted a copy. I certainly wouldn't put it past a celestial dragon. It could also provide more depth to Shamrock and give him a reason to be insistent on proving himself, as well as showing us what Shanks would have been like had he stayed with his original family. But cloning, and especially perfect cloning, is a total nightmare of a concept to throw into an ill-equipped story. Between the cloning of high-tier characters and the replication of devil fruits, it becomes hard to validate why and how there's any chance of winning against such a threat. And why would they stop at one clone when they can have scores of them? I can see why the Seraphim are difficult to replicate. But what about characters like Stussy? When it comes to devil fruits, even Caesar has a hard time. And Vegapunks turned out to be the wrong color. As if that even matters. But the world government had Vegapunk for decades, and he made that copy of Kaido's fruit ages ago. So why wouldn't they have plenty more where that came from? With Gunko's arrows being reminiscent of Imu's, along with the fact that it allows her to enlarge herself and has some connection to the direction of one's future, maybe it's a copy of the King of the World's fruit too. Elbaf seems to be getting to the good stuff now, so hopefully we get to pick up the pace here. As always, I'm Sliceable Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.